Good morning. It's Pop again, Dennis Murray. This is Popcast 19 already. Good heavens. It's called Finding the Middle. We've been talking for a few days about finding your own wisdom, and our purpose in finding our wisdom is to be able to recreate the middle. So now it's time to talk about finding the middle. And essentially, the middle is an attitude, a state of mind that results from being more aware of how connected we are to each other, even to those whose views are fairly extreme and perhaps very different from our own. Um, the awe we feel inside us gives us a sense of connection, which is deeper than the disputes about how to interpret and apply the law, how to live it. And essentially, all of our extreme positions are efforts by individuals to figure out how best to live the all, how to interpret it, what the gift of each other means. And I'm going to talk about parenting and politics and religion to make the point that we interpret how best to live in relation and fruitful relation to others very differently. In some areas of our lives, we're generous towards people who have a different opinion. In other areas of our lives, it may be quite difficult for us to be generous, kind, and understanding and appreciative of the person beneath the opinion when the opinion is very different from ours. So, in parenting, every parent knows you'll have to let your children uh, uh, experience things that may be somewhat scary for you to watch and may actually involve some risk of harm to them. Um, to, One way of phrasing it people used to use was you have to let them sink or swim. If children don't have an opportunity to try things, uh, even though there may be some risk in the effort, they'll never be able to figure out the extent of their capacities, their abilities. Um, on the contrary, um, those kids who are allowed to have adventures as children develop a lot more appreciation of how much stuff they're able to do. And it's just like watching a little one, and a 2 month old, stretching every muscle all the time, constantly, and a 2 year old jumping up and down just because they can jump up and down and excitedly asking for your attention. Look, mommy, look what I can do. So, but in parenting, even though there's a lot of disagreements, your mother in law may have very different ideas than you do about, coddling the children or being too harsh on them. Um, but regardless, we tend to give each other more slack there. We see the mother-in-law as a good soul who raised your spouse and brought a lot of love to that process and made a lot of mistakes and has a lot of personal faults and failings. Welcome to the real world. Um, I hate to tell you, in case you haven't noticed, you do too. Same as me. What are you going to do? So, but that slack that we cut, I'd like to see, I'd like to show a way that we could cut some of that slack for matters of religion and politics as well. When we occupy the middle, we bring this sense of connection that's deeper than the differences. Now, first off, again, why is it deeper? Because we are all in the same effort. We're all trying to make an effort to interpret this experience of awe, this intuition of awe, and its call for us to live in relation to each other to try to figure out, how do you live that? And so we invent religions, philosophies, and political philosophies as well. Um, and then we may get drawn to a fairly extreme position. Um, and certainly right now in politics, the center got killed off maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago. It began to, you know, slowly disappear, and it disappeared pretty thoroughly by now. Um, but to some degree, also in religion, what people speak of culture wars. I don't think that's uh, an accurate phrase. I don't think it's a close description. But there are cultural differences, and they're quite severe. And each of the extremes in politics and in culture, in religion, feels that the other side is profoundly wrong. And my point is not to ask you to agree with everything the other side says or to give up your own convictions, but to appreciate that everybody is trying to interpret the same experience of awe. Details of how you think you should live awe are understandably, forgivably different. So that while you might think that your mother in law's parenting ideas are really just not ones you want to use, you don't allow your disagreement to keep you from seeing the goodness of herself as a person, even if she's got a boatload of faults and is really kind of personally irritating to you. Nonetheless, most of the time you can see there's a good soul under there. She may have had a troubled life. She may have had some serious problems in her youth or early adjustment or with her spouse. Um, and she may not have done a very good job of recovering from some of those difficulties. So that she could be quite a troubled person, but she's underneath the troubles, a person who has, one hopes, tried to live as best she could in fruitful relation with others, trying to live the call to do that. So it's a little easier to see in matters of parenting, a lot harder to see in religion and politics. But I do think that finding the middle begins by figuring out that the sense of connection we have is more important than the differences we have about interpreting the sense of connection. And I think that's a huge point that I'm going to be developing for a while. Now, I want to make a point here. I, as you know, I told you I wrote some books and self-published them on Amazon, and not pushing them. I think that I've gotten better since I wrote the books at explaining things, and that my podcasts are better than my books. I hope so. They're done later, and I'd like to see that I make a little progress in learning how to explain this better as time goes on. But each of my books contains something. The author's ritual about fear at the beginning. And I put it in there for a very, very good reason. And I think it very much applies to what we're talking about today and what we will be talking about in coming days. And so I'm going to read it. We cannot talk of the sacred without risking hate, but we cannot live together without talking of the sacred. I am afraid of your hate and of my own. I ask your forbearance and will try to give you mine. These are difficult matters. There's good reason that your parents told you don't talk religion and politics in uh, any setting outside of a political party or a church. And it's scary stuff. Um, how easily we become outraged and or completely dismissive of other people's points of view. So, but I think we do need to talk about it. I honestly do. I don't see how we can live together without, and I know we can't find the middle without talking about it. Okay, enough for today. See you tomorrow. It's a gorgeous day here in Maryland. I'm going to go outside and have lunch with the birds and such, the squirrels and the rabbits and all. Bye bye.